Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Archlord Dirk, of course, and I will be walking you through another first impressions should I play of Zero Parades for Dead Spies. Let's go ahead and start where all good first impressions start, in the settings menu. It has robust settings. You can see you've got a slider for every kind of volume you would want, master volume. The music is independent from sound effects, the voice volume's separated from both of those things. You even have the environmental volume slider, and then you have a user interface volume. So lots of great options there. You have several other options here that just give you really great control over the audio. Display, I don't think you're going to be seeing anything too crazy here. The game is sort of a high fidelity art style, and that allows for, I would say most PCs and most PCs to run this game probably fairly easily. In the visuals department, you have some really cool features here, especially for quality of life. You have text size, you have dyslexic font, which will switch out decorative, non-decorative text elements, swapped for a dyslexic version. That's really cool to see. You also have this whole custom UI colors where you can change colors around to make it work for you if you have color blindness. So, whatever colorblind you might have, you'll be able to adjust it to fit your needs, which I think is really cool. That's a great quality of life touch. You've got some gameplay stuff here, text language. You can change the other languages. Really some pretty standard stuff, but it's good to see that it's here, because even though you think of it as being standard, a lot of times companies, when they're porting these games over, or even if they're making it for PC specifically, you just don't see those things. And then controls, you have fully rebindable keys, and of course you can also rebind the mouse, or I'm sorry, a gamepad if you're playing with that, which is very cool. You don't see that as often. So really neat to look. Let's jump into the game. So as you all know from watching videos on the channel, I have some experience with games similar to this, obviously Esoteric Ebb being the main one. I gotta be honest with you. This game, very much not as much my cup of tea. Esoteric Ebb I found to be enchanting. I was captivated by the story right away, and it was very fun. And the combat was good. There was obviously some gripes with loading screens and stuff like that. This game, however, it doesn't have nearly as many loading screens. Obviously, same to Esoteric Ebb. When you're going in and out of buildings, you will be met with a quick loading screen. They are very fast to load through. Every section is kind of sectionized like this. And that's fine with me. It doesn't take long to load, and I think in a game like this, where it's a lot of point and click RPG adventure game, that works. The art style is definitely interesting. If you're familiar with Disco Elysium, I think you'll be right at home. This feels very similar to what I've seen of that gameplay. As you know, full disclosure, I've never played Disco Elysium. This game does come from the same developers, or some of the same developers that created Disco Elysium. And maybe that's my problem with this game, is that the writing and everything feels a little almost dubious. It feels like they really captured something with Disco Elysium, and they were trying to copy it or recreate it here. And they tried so hard to recreate it that I almost wonder if they forgot to make a new game and they just kind of reskinned, reworked the previous game. This game is fully voice acted. You will spend a lot of time listening to the voice of your main protagonist here. And she does a fine job. She's not as good as I would maybe have expected her to be. That could just be a personal thing. Obviously, art, just like video games, subjective.
Displayed on the chair before you is a man, approximately mid-30s. His chest rises and falls in steady rhythm as he stares beyond you, unblinking. His eyes are fixed glassily on the ceiling. Cream paint, peeling slightly. No response, no jolt. All posts deserted. They're going to pin this on you.
I'm not a huge fan of the voice actress, and I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the voice acting in this game. It just feels not as robust as I was kind of hoping it would be. And I was excited to see that there was fully voice acted characters in this game coming from Esoteric Ebb where everything was reading. And maybe that's part of the issue for me, is I was so engaged in Esoteric Ebb because I was reading everything. And now I'm finding myself kind of just lost in the sauce, if you will. It's not that it's a bad game. And I think if you really love Disco Elysium, you will like this game. I think if you are into point and click, you're into these social mechanics, these strong RPG elements, you will enjoy this game, but it will not be for everyone. This one specifically, I think is a tougher sell for somebody who really liked Esoteric Ebb, or if you really loved Disco Elysium, it also may be a hard sell for you, because I think if you love Disco Elysium, you're not looking to play Disco Elysium again necessarily. You're looking to play Disco Elysium's sequel. You're looking to play a game that takes the fundamentals of Disco Elysium and it builds on it. And I don't know if this game has done that as thoroughly as it could have. You'll see I'm just kind of walking around here while I talk. You have three main stats. You have fatigue, you have anxiety, and you have delirium. They each correspond with body function. We can look at that here. No, not conditioning, I'm sorry, dossier. So you'll see your fatigue obviously relates to physical things. You have different abilities here as well. And then of course anxiety is more like wisdom in, tabletop RPGs like we've talked about. And then of course delirium is your intellect. I went again playing a character that I thought would be kind of interesting. Not a super smart character, not a super strong character, but a character that was really focused and able to lock in on people's emotions and the things that they're doing and saying. I was curious to see what kind of dialogue options that would open up. This game does focus a lot on kind of talking and investigating. You are doing a lot of conversations. You are searching for clues. You're playing as a spy. It is clear to me that this type of spy is very, very much engaging in social espionage, if you will. So there are some cool systems here. You have this dossier where you can add effects to your fatigue, anxiety, delirium. You have coordination. You can see the modifiers here on the right-hand side of the screen, and you can see that I have not added a significant amount of skill points into that here in the center where it says 1. Doppelganger is another ability. It shows you what the modifiers are, gives you a little description, and then you'll see that I have 2 in that. Instincts, sensor, Shadowplay, same thing. Shadowplay, I do have 3 in. I liked the idea of the Shadowplay specifically. And then in anxiety, I have a lot of points across the board. And then personalism, oh my goodness. You'll see I have the most points, as well as statehood. And then Technoflex, I've got a few things in as well. As you level up, you are able to add points into each of these, and you are able to increase those abilities and skills, and they will help you with different skill checks and being able to access more social interactions, more gameplay interactions, depending on, again, the build of your character, which I think is really cool. It is a very cool thing. Let's jump over to the map. I didn't talk about this in Esoteric Ebb, but I really should have. The map in Esoteric Ebb is really, in my opinion, it's very cool, but it's hard to kind of see and realize. I think a map that is really well done is flat like this is, and I do think that it has done a pretty good job of organizing where you are. You can see the sections they're broken up into. You can see different indicators around the map, and you have your legend over here to be able to see what those things represent. Then you have this X here that will showcase where your player is at any given time. So that's nice. It makes it easy to kind of find where you're at, where you're going, and what you're trying to do. The journal is a little interesting. You have these cards. I think aesthetically, it's very cool. I like that you can click on them and you can get these kind of fun images, and you get right away a breakdown of what you're kind of learning and doing. It's an intriguing way to do it. It's not necessarily the best, but it is an intriguing way. I think for this style, they've done a good job of making it relatively clear what you are trying to do. You've got your tasks up here, what you're doing. You do have finished tasks down here that you can see what you've accomplished. Not much for me. I have played only about maybe an hour or two of this game so far, so I am really giving you first impressions, as I think you are expecting, right? You also have this conditioning thing. Now, conditioning is interesting. It's a little bit unclear. I think the tutorial explanation is a little bit difficult to follow, but basically, as you level up, you're able to gain these conditionings, which will enhance certain abilities that you have, and they will also give you side effects that will typically be negative. So here you can see I have primitive accumulation, blueprint skill potential +1, personalism skill potential +1, steal from vending machines, raid more trash. Those are all benefits that I have. Those are reinforced effects. Violations, when working any side job. So if I'm doing a side mission, I temporarily lose reinforced effects, and I temporarily gain disadvantage on relation checks, which is interesting. It can be difficult. Now what's cool is you can add these effects and then you can also suppress them. So you lose the benefits, but you also lose the negatives. I like the system because it gives you opportunities to have benefits and disadvantages in a lot of ways that other games may not. I do like that. Because of the sort of focus on interpersonal relations and narrative espionage that this game focuses on, it is cool that you are able to gain enhancements in certain ways, but there's always a cost to that. And in a game like this, I think that's really important. Inventory is pretty basic. You can add things to your character, and those things will give you advantages. There's also a myriad of drugs, if we're being honest, in this game that will give you, that will improve things or decrease things. So fatigue, right now I'm at 1 fatigue. I could decrease that fatigue by 3 by drinking this caffeinated beverage, and I would be able to but it would increase my anxiety. There's a cost for the benefit. Now my anxiety is okay, so it could be worth it if I decide I really don't want any more fatigue, but right now my delirium is rather high, and so I feel that it would be maybe smoking a few cigarettes here would be a better use of my drug addict nature. Obviously, any social interaction you have has the potential to increase fatigue, anxiety, delirium, depending on what kind of interaction that is. If you get to the elevated state, certain things can happen in social interactions. Now, after you push past the elevated state, you'll hit the limit state. What's interesting about this mechanic is that once you hit the limit, if you go past it again, you will be forced to look at your dossier and actually reduce one of your skills. That happened to me early on. I think for somebody who plays a lot of these types of games or is good at these sort of obscure puzzle games, that's probably not a big deal. For a guy like me who's not very good, very punishing. It could be, right? It could potentially be very punishing for some players. So that's something to keep in mind. The whole cognitive system with anxiety and intellect and even fatigue can be something that they are resources that you really have to pay attention to and manage wisely. I do like that you have a lot of tools at your disposal, these drugs, to be able to adapt to them or be able to relieve some of them, especially when they start building. Obviously that comes at a cost, but it is a good way to balance the system. I like that. I do think that it requires a lot of processing power, I guess you could say, mentally, to make sure you're paying attention to what's going on and you're doing a good job of keeping track of those stats, especially as you kind of converse with people and you don't know what's going to happen in those conversations sometimes, and sometimes you pick something that you think sounds really good and you end up making a fool of yourself. So for me, I have been intrigued by this game, but I'm not overly passionate about it. Not like I was with Esoteric Ebb. It really goes to show that art style and theme can really change the way you look at a game, even if it's so similar, right? It just goes to show the power of theming and how there's some people out there who've talked about the idea that like a show could be perfect for you, but if you don't like the fact that it's an anime, you're never going to watch it. Whereas if you recommend a show that's live action, most likely people are not going to tell you, hey, I don't like that. I'm not a big live action guy. It's interesting. You don't think about these consequences of the theme or the styling of a game necessarily completely turning you off to something. And I'm not saying that I'm completely turned off of this game, but I am saying that compared to my experience with Esoteric Ebb, that is a game that plays very similarly with, a few different mechanics here and there, I am not as excited to keep coming back to this one, which does disappoint me because it does feel like there's a good story here, maybe hidden in the weeds a little bit, but it's one of those things. This game, I think, is going to be a game that you love if you loved Disco Elysium, but it may not be for everyone, and it may not be the game that convinces you these games are right for you. So with that, I think I'll leave it there. I think that's a solid first impressions. It gives you an idea of what you're looking at. That's Zero Parade for Dead Spies.